Salutations, people! Welcome to Page 3 Killers, Murders That Went Unnoticed, a podcast where we dive into the murder cases that went unnoticed by our nation's newspapers.
Have we started yet?
Yeah, we're started.
Oh, hi Shay.
Hey, John.
Hi people.
Hi, guys. Welcome back.
And welcome to Page 3 Killers, Episode 11, Murders That Went Unnoticed. I said that in the wrong order.
One of these days you'll figure it out.
Wait, no, it's not. It's Episode 12.
Yeah, it's Episode 12. This was originally planned for 11. Yeah, guys, welcome back for Episode 12.
What are we doing? We're going back.
We're going back?
Yeah, we've already been here before.
Yes, we are traveling back down to lovely New Orleans for this episode.
NOLA.
Yes. This case was super interesting yet fucked up at the same time.
Did she get her to eat her cake too?
No, because...
Her name is Antoinette.
Her name is Antoinette Frank. You don't know what we're talking about yet.
No, not yet. I don't know. You're the storyteller, right?
Yes, I am.
I'm just a color commentator.
Let's move into
The drink segment. We've already had one too many, or, three too many of these drinks. So we might be a little goofy tonight.
Oh my god, they're so good.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another drink segment. Or morning, if that's when you listen to the podcasts. But I don't suggest drinking these cocktails first thing in the morning, especially before work. We are back with another drink segment with a, what I'm going to call an original. Page 3 Killers original. The Pina Bluelada, right? So it's kind of like a pina colada, but it's blue, hence the name. And we're going to go with a different format tonight. Normally I give you guys ounces and all that good jazz. We're just going to go with the dive bar bartender style. So we're going to start off in our tumbler with a 3-second pour of some type of coconut rum and a 3-second pour of blue caracal and with some ice. We're going to mix that up. We're going to give that a good old shake. And then we're going to put it in our glass. And then all we're going to do after that is top it up with what... I don't even know what to call it. It is kind of like, it's not seltzer. It's a sugar-free version of pineapple coconut soda. You can usually find these in your supermarkets with the sports drinks. That's where we found it. I don't even know. We go to Giant. I guess it's the same thing as Martin's. But that's only in the mid-Atlantic. I have no idea if it's at a Piggly Wiggly, Publix, or whatever you weirdos out west have. That's what we got. Oh, that's a 6-second pour of that on top. So you're going to go with a 3-second pour, a 3-second pour, and then a 6-second pour. And you just add some ice. And it's delicious. And hopefully no one can notice that I've had way too many of them this episode. But anyway, back to our regularly scheduled programming. So nothing says professional podcasters like showing up drunk to the job.
I know. What other job can you do that to?
And by job, we mean hobby, because we make absolutely no money off of this.
Well, that could change if we got some patrons. So if you guys want to shout out, hit us up on Patreon. Like, share, subscribe.
Yeah, hey, we got a podcast you can listen to, subscribe to. We also have a Facebook page. Shout out to everybody who is subscribing to the Facebook page lately. We have seen quite an uptick.
Yes.
And also, we have a YouTube channel. Just search Page 3 Killers. We're pretty much the only people who use that name.
Absolutely, we are. We're going to get into our topic for tonight, which is former New Orleans police officer Antoinette Renee Frank. And this goes back to 1995.
This is my favorite year.
Yeah? Why?
I don't know why, but I have a lot of memories from this year. And this is... Well, no, I know exactly why. Because I'm a huge football fan. And this is the first year I remember the Philadelphia Eagles being very good. Well, and by very good, I mean not sucking.
I totally understand that.
I was a spiteful 9-year-old child at the time.
Wow.
And I was just learning about professional football. And the Eagles just happened to not be bad. So I really like this year. I have a lot of good memories of it.
Well, that's good, because I don't really remember 1995. He was a blur.
But a moment in the passing in the night.
Yes. Yes. It was.
I messed. There's a quote in there somewhere that I messed up.
It just wasn't a year that stuck out to me. This case takes place on March 4th, 1995. And we will get into, I don't want to give too much away until we start getting into the episode. So I don't want to give too much away because John has no idea what we're going to talk about tonight.
All right, let's get into our, what happened in March of the year 1995.
All right. So our news topics tonight are really interesting. Sort of. All right. So on March 16th, Mississippi ratifies the 13th Amendment, becoming the last state to approve the abolition of slavery. The amendment was nationally ratified in 1865, but they didn't make it official until 2013.
Wait, what do you mean?
So they wrote it in, but they didn't announce that they wrote it in until 2013.
So Mississippi was all like, yeah, we understand there's 49 other states that have been all anti-slavery for the past 130 some odd years, but we're just gonna silently
ignore.
No. Well, I mean, they signed off on it, and then they're just like, yeah, but we can't let anyone know that.
Yeah, they just never ratified it in their local state.
Well, the thing about amendments is you need a 2/3 majority.
Yeah.
To amend, and so it really doesn't even matter. They never had it if they didn't want to.
Yep.
And I guess that's the 1860. You're looking at probably less than 40 states. Well, probably less than 40 states, probably somewhere around 30 states. So you only needed, math is hard right now. Well, if you have 40 states, then you need 30 to ratify. If you have 30 states, you need 24 to ratify.
Yeah, I'm glad you're able to do math. I'm not able to process math right now, which is cool. Next news topic is on March 27th. You have the 67th Academy Awards hosted by David Letterman, hosted at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles, California, and Forrest Gump won the Best Picture.
Probably one of the top 5 movies of all time.
Oh, that's debatable.
I know there's a lot of people who hate it. I love that movie.
It's an interesting movie to watch once. I can't watch it more. I couldn't watch it ever again.
I can only imagine what children today, if they ever watch that, and they will have no context whatsoever for that movie.
That's true.
They're like, Vietnam, what's that?
Yeah. I just realized their Vietnam is going to be Desert Storm or
No, well,
right
I mean
now.
the second, the 9/11 war.
The next thing I had on here was kind of a big thing. So singer-songwriter Celine Perez, who went by just Selena, she was murdered in Corpus Christi, Texas by the president of her fan club, Yolanda Salvador. Do you know who she is? Celine?
Yes, I've seen this movie probably a dozen times. This is actually a great movie.
My mom and my aunt went and saw it, and there was somebody just crying, just broke down into tears, and just wailing, Selena, Selena. And my mom and aunt they were dying.
She was an absolute cultural icon for
Mexican Americans. Yeah.
Yeah, she was the first legitimate immigrant from Mexico to
she made it big.
Break it through.
Yeah.
There were Hispanics and all that good stuff, but she was huge.
Yep. So that was a really big thing that took a lot of national news. Then you had 2 American military contractors in Kuwait are arrested for straying into Iraq. I don't know how you accidentally stray into Iraq. Guess you're walking along the border and you just...
It's a desert. You can very easily just wander. By accident. It's not like there's a river or anything in between them.
True.
It's literally just a desert.
True. So there's no marked border.
Thank you, World War II.
Wonderful.
You forgot Christopher Reeves.
Yes. We had actor Christopher Reeves was paralyzed in a fall from his horse in a horse riding competition, and he sustained damage to his spinal cord.
And to anyone who doesn't know who Christopher Reeves is,
Superman.
He was the Superman.
Well, I know nothing can outdo Christopher Reeves and, Selena, but we do have Walt Disney releases its 33rd feature film, Pocahontas, that year.
Another great film.
Yes, it was a great film.
I told you, this was a great year. 1995. That year is awesome. Don't know why. I love this year. Everything that happened this year was awesome.
Yep. And then August that year marked the 50th anniversary of the dropping of the atomic bomb. in
Again,
Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
Another really awesome thing. And by awesome, I mean horrific and should never have happened.
And then we have Microsoft releases Windows 95.
All right, this is disappointing because I was a huge, I can't even remember it now. What? Windows?
MS-DOS?
Well, no, they had Windows. It was DOS-based. I think 95 was the first one that wasn't DOS-based.
Yeah.
3.1, 3.2? Was that what was out?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I just remember having one of the really old ones, and literally the only thing I could do was turn it on, and it was one that my mom programmed herself.
So you would have prompts, prompts come up,
and it would only open up these like awesome, really old games. Like there was like a maze.
Oregon Trail.
Yes, the original, like the very first original Oregon Trail was on there.
What do you mean very first original? The only.
Well, no, they re-released it and they like updated it with better graphics and stuff like that later.
Like I can go online right now and find Oregon Trail in its original version. If I just type in Oregon Trail game into Google, it'll give me the original version.
Okay.
There's a card game for it too. I bought it for my niece. She was not impressed.
No, she wasn't. That was funny though. Just watching John and
it was such a great game, and she was just like, "Stop it."
Well, you're into like those hard card games. She's not.
I also was just like, "It's Oregon Trail. What do you mean you don't know what's going on? You just died of diphtheria."
Dysentery.
Dysentery, yeah.
It's like, oh no, your 4 children have starved to death.
We're forging this river right now. We need to move on.
Yes, we do.
We're 15 minutes. It's almost 16 minutes.
All right, so now we have the Washington Post publishes the Unabomber's Manifesto several months after it was written.
This guy comes up way too often.
Yeah, because it was a really, really huge thing. So then we have to close out the good things of that year. Toy Story comes out.
Yet another amazing thing that happened in 1995.
Yes. Now we're going to get into the seedy side from 1995.
Well, as you alluded to, we already have the Oklahoma City bombing.
Yes. So that was a really huge one. You had 168 people, including 8 federal marshals, and 19 children are killed in the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building when Timothy McVeigh and his accomplice Terry Nichols set off a bomb.
There are all kinds of conspiracy theories about this. There's no way it was only those 2 people.
Yeah, it had to be more people. Okay.
Well, there was almost assuredly more people involved, but they just can't prove it.
I mean, there was at least 6 or 7 people involved in the bombing of the World Trade Center the first time.
I mean, well, this was a little different. They didn't have to actually get into the country and do all that jazz.
The second thing I have on here is hacker Kevin McInnick is arrested by the FBI and charged with breaking into some of the United States' most secure computer systems. So I'm thinking like CIA site, whatever. So he like hacked into like some serious government systems.
He had all that skill, and all he had to do was go into the IRS database and be like, "Yep, no one owes any taxes this year."
Asshole.
What a dick.
You're a dick, man. So then we have Colin Ferguson is convicted of 6 counts of murder for the December 1993 Long Island Railroad shooting and later receives a 200-plus year sentence. This guy was insane, okay?
I don't remember this at all.
I do. I remember this.
This is the only thing on your entire list I am not, like, intimately familiar with.
And I just watched a documentary about it, too.
Well, that's cheating.
But it was it was super interesting, and then he decided he was going to represent himself in court, which is a terrible idea. Don't ever represent yourself in court. Get a real fucking lawyer.
The man who represents himself in court has a full court client.
Yes, that is true. And he was terrible. Like, it was ridiculous. You can actually watch, like, the press coverage and everything, and
that's what I'm spending the rest of tonight doing.
It's insane. All right. Then you have Private Tracy McBride is kidnapped, raped, and murdered in Texas by a former soldier, Louis Jones Jr. So they were like in the military together, and yep, just raped, murdered her.
Yeah, it's just, well, I mean, the murder is kind of unique.
A dick move.
But, the whole rape thing, that's just, another day.
That's pretty much military for you. And the last thing to end out the seedy side of 1995 is during the O.J. Simpson trial. O.J. puts on that legendary pair of gloves, presumably worn by the person who murdered his ex-wife, And defense attorney Johnny Cochran quips, "If it does not fit, you must acquit." And the gloves appear to be too tight in his hands, and that's how he gets off.
The fact that there's an entire family who is super famous, almost exclusively because their dad messed up this entire case, blows my mind.
Listen, I'm not going to say it was the DA that fucked it up. I'm going to say it's the cops that were stupid, that didn't know how to handle evidence correctly.
No, this glove thing should have never happened, first of all.
That's true. He should never have tried it on.
He had a pair of gloves on in the courtroom when he put the other pair of gloves on. Of course they're not going to fit.
Yeah,
it's a second pair of gloves. They're fitted gloves.
Well,
But she got a big booty.
What does that have to do with...
No, I'm saying, like, the entire family is filthy, rich, and famous because of this trial.
That's true. Yes.
But on the plus side, we got to see a big old booty.
So that is it for our history news, our news stories. And it is history because it's way back in the day. So we're going to move into our case. We are talking today about Antoinette Frank. And in case you guys don't know anything about her, she is an ex-police officer.
No one knows anything about her. She was on the page 3.
Yeah. She was an ex-police officer. And I'll tell you why she's an ex-police officer. Because she done fucked up. She murdered somebody. A couple of people.
I'm intrigued.
Oh, believe me, it's about to get so much better than intriguing. So we have Antoinette Frank. She was born on April 30th, 1971 in Appaloosa, Louisiana. I'm so proud of myself for pronouncing that correctly. She applied to be a New Orleans police officer in early 1993. And according to Chuck Hustmeyer, a former federal agent and author of the book Killer with a Badge, Frank was caught lying on several sections of her employment application and failed 2 standard psychiatric evaluations.
Our story should end right here.
They basically said that she was not capable of being a police officer because she was shallow and superficial, and that she was a borderline narcissist.
So she's just like the classic, like, sociopath.
Yeah, she's a classic sociopath, and they just made the mistake of giving her a badge and a gun. But at this time, Nolo PD is not too worried about credentials and psych evaluations because they're in a serious issue with just crazy crime rate in their city, and they can't maintain enough officers to patrol the entire city. They just don't, they have like a shortage of police officers. One, because their budget is so small that they can't afford to pay everybody a working wage.
I guess it's because it's a destination town, right? So they don't have the year-round tax base.
Yes. I mean, they get a lot coming in for travel, but it's a very poor area.
I imagine like February is really a ton of money coming in February, maybe during the summer.
That pretty much, yeah, that's it.
But like the winter's probably no bueno.
Yeah. Because of this chronic shorthandedness, and the fact that they can't pay their officers a lot, really allows people to become police officers that should not be police officers. They don't have the necessary skill set already in place, or how should I say, honesty or anything like that, integrity to be a police officer.
I feel like that's most big cities, though.
Yeah, but this is really bad because they're in the drug epidemic right now. You know, the pill mills are really big in New Orleans at this time.
Oh, so this is like that the pill highway, Ohio to Florida.
Yep. So it's a real big issue in New Orleans. In fact, you know, they are still having problems.
Oxys were brand new back then.
Yeah, and they're still having these issues right now in this city. It's an insane
everywhere.
thing.
Everywhere. Narcotics are not a good deal right now.
Yeah, like I heard that the safest place in New Orleans is like the French Quarter during the day. They're like, not at night. No,
not that Voodoo Temple that someone got murdered on a couple of weeks ago. We talked about.
Hey, they were living there. That was a live-in situation, okay? And if I happen to move into a place with a ghost, if they may be paying rent, they better keep it quiet. I totally live in a Voodoo Temple.
Oh, no, so would I. That sounds awesome.
That sounds like super amazing. I could say, oh, here's our sacrificial room.
I just want a bunch of stuffy dolls I can poke with needles.
So, yes.
What are they called?
Voodoo dolls.
They're just called voodoo dolls?
Yeah, voodoo dolls. The ones that you poke.
I call them stuffy dolls. I don't know why.
Stuffy dolls? Yeah, well, you're supposed to, like, put the hair of your person inside of it.
Yeah.
And then they're supposed to feel it when you poke it. And, like, sometimes I'm just like, listen, whoever's got my voodoo doll, can you just, like, shave a few pounds off of it?
I feel like someone's just jabbing my knees all the time.
Oh, no. Well, let's get back to the topic, John. Oh, my gosh. We are, like, so bad today.
Well, we'll cut it on post.
Yeah. Like I said, the police officers, the ranks of the police force in New Orleans have been reduced further by several arrests for murder and drug activity. So she's not the first officer to have issues, okay? So when she's coming in, they have, like, people that they're kicking out at the same time because of, like, they're into drugs and they have some habits that aren't very good for police officers to have.
Like killing people.
Yeah, exactly. And many of the potential applicants were shut out due to requirements that officers be a resident of New Orleans. So they had to reside there inside of New Orleans or they wouldn't be hired. So they couldn't live in towns outside of New Orleans. So they couldn't live on the outskirts of the city.
That's really typical, though. I mean, New York literally just this week changed their laws to say that new hires had to live within the city limits.
Yeah. In 2014, they did ratify that and put it into writing that they didn't have to live in New Orleans to work there, which probably helps them draw more applicants to the city. Frank was an African-American female, and police officers thought having more African-American officers would help ease the long-standing racial tensions because the majority of the city is African-American.
Yeah, so anyone thinks this is a new issue in the 2020 area, you're wrong. Well, what I'm saying is, like, people have been having this conversation for 30, 40 years.
Quite some time, and they just can't figure out the correct way to solve it. Frank was hired on February 7th of 1993, and she graduated from the police academy on February 28th. If anybody else is shocked by the fact that she only received that short span of training is insane. February 7th to the 28th.
Oh, wow, that's only 3 weeks.
3 weeks of training to be a police officer.
And they probably had weekends off.
Yeah.
That's 15 days.
That's 15 days of training. That's it. That's insane.
That's even, like, well, most departments have, like...
At least a year.
Like 3 to 6 months. I've never heard of a police academy being more than 6 months. Yeah. Which is already kind of ridiculous.
And shocking enough, she graduated at the top of her class. Like, near the top of the academy class.
Well, she's a sociopath. She wants to, like, her, you know.
And her superiors said that considering that she was such a high standing in the academy classes, her career was very undistinguished. She didn't really do much.
I mean, it was also particularly short and, bookended by shooting people.
Now, her fellow officers thought she was rather shy and had no idea what police work really entailed and lacked the decisiveness to be a good officer. They also thought at times she veered and tended to be too irrational in her behavior.
Well, I feel like that's, like, what people do. She seems like she's almost too cerebral to be a cop.
Yes.
Right? So that's what you do. You kind of overreact when, like, you think about things too much.
So, in early August of 1993, her superiors sent her back to the academy for further training. They felt that she just needed a little bit more.
All right, now that's something I've never heard of.
Yeah, so they sent her back to the academy, and then she had several incidences where she had to go for a review with her supervisor over her job performance. It's a little bumpy, but she did win honor of being the Officer of the Month for a local community club.
What is that even supposed to mean?
Yeah, so
she's the only officer in the club?
No, so so it was like her beat, like the area that she would like patrol. There was like a neighborhood community group, and they selected her as their Officer of the Month for 1 month.
I just feel like she was like being nice to people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Schmoozing.
Now, up until now, it's fine. She's all good, Sure, she's had a few issues. She might not be the best well-trained police officer, but there's nothing that seems to be dangerous about her.
She just isn't that particularly good at her job.
Yeah, she's mediocre, like most police officers. Mediocre, you know?
Well, that would be the definition of everybody, right?
Correct.
Most people are very mediocre at their job.
Not everybody can be us, John. We need to accept that.
We're looking at you, Joe Rogan.
We're coming for you. What really changes this narrative and everything would be the relationship that she starts up with Roger
Lacaze?
Lacaze.
It depends on where he's from, really.
Lacaze. We're just gonna call him Lacaze, okay?
We're just gonna call him Roger.
Yeah, Roger. So she starts this relationship with Roger. They meet on November 25th, 1994. Frank meets Roger during an incident where a known drug dealer, was shot. An investigator with the Department of Public Safety and Corrections believed that this was the first contact between Rogers and Frank, even though in her statements later on, she claimed that she hadn't met him for another 8 months before the murders. Frank had taken Roger's statement after he was shot on the street and initially got closer to him in hopes of, like, turning him around. Like, she got into a relationship with him and she had, like, this hope of, like, making the bad guy good, you know, and turning his life around.
It seems pretty like a noble cause.
And other people said that she was smitten by his bad boy persona, and their relationship very quickly heated up. Yes, exactly.
Or as I heard the other day, brown chicken, brown cow.
Who told you that one?
I don't know. Apparently, it's a country song.
Oh, okay.
And I thought it was really funny, and I've been replaying it in my head ever since.
She kept the relationship quiet because she didn't want to jeopardize her career. So she really kept it on the down low for the most part. The association between Frank and Rogers became noticeable after other police officers witnessed him driving her cop car.
That's a big old no-no.
And they said that they had seen him move her police vehicle, at a scene of an incident, an accident that she was investigating. And on occasion, Rogers would accompany her on a complaint call where she would introduce him as a trainee. And then she also said he was her nephew on other occasions.
I feel like she's lying about one of those.
She's lying about all of them. He's not a trainee. He's a drug dealer. And the second, he's not her nephew. He's her boyfriend. Which is crazy. That, like, in any other world, any other time than this, she would have been fired. Like, right there and then, it wouldn't have gone any further. She would have been fired. She would have found another job and went somewhere else. But no, that's not what happens. Prior to the murders, others testified that Frank and Rogers would pull over and rob motorists while in her squad car.
All right, so I don't know how many of our listeners are going to be familiar with this particular saying, but they were legitimately road pirates.
They were. And what's crazy is that they just get away with it. Nobody reports it.
Well, like, because they're, like, shaking down people who had, like, issues.
Drugs and stuff in their car, and they...
Yeah, like, what are they, like, oh, like, listen, these cops, I had a bunch of drugs in my car, and these cops came along and took a couple of dollars from me.
That reminds me of, like, that guy that went into the police station to get his drugs checked to make sure they were real.
Yeah, which, by the way, should be a legitimate function of the police.
You don't want to be walking around with not real dope.
No, well, think about the issue we're having right now. Yeah. If you had the ability to go somewhere and test your heroin to see how much fentanyl was in it, would be
a lot safer.
We would not be having nearly as many overdoses.
That's true.
But guess what? We make that illegal, so then people are just like, I want my heroin, so it doesn't matter how much fentanyl's in it.
Yeah, it's a shame. Now, Frank refused to discuss her relationship with Rogers during the investigation after the murders take place.
Well, neither would I. I don't know who this cop is.
That's true.
This lady's crazy.
And she was asked why she would continue this relationship, knowing that he had been involved in dealing drugs and in multiple shootings. She responded that she would not disassociate herself from him just because of his past. That's true love right there, I guess. Don't care what your past is. You're a good person in my eyes.
I sold drugs and killed people.
It's okay. We can get past this. Now, the investigation also questioned Frank about the 9mm ammunition she bought at Walmart for Rogers on the day before the Kimball murders.
What's the Kimball murders?
That's our topic. We're about to get into it.
Foreshadowing.
She said she was a police officer and that there was nothing wrong with her buying ammunition. So she said, that's not a big deal. I bought it for myself, basically.
I doubt she used 9mm at the time, though.
Yeah.
I would bet good money that they were using 40 Smith & Wesson.
Probably. In her statement, she claimed that she and Rogers were not dating and had never been intimate. It would later come out that they were in a sexual relationship at that time.
So she lied.
Yeah, she lies a lot.
This is a shocking revelation.
Yes. It's a trend, guys. Just flow with it, alright? Frank refused to discuss anything regarding the murders. Every time the investigator asked her a question, she told him to look it up in the record or asserted her innocence.
So this is weird. Did this happen in court?
So after the murders happen, they question her and everything, and she just denies everything. She's like, check the record, my statement.
Okay, so that's probably pretty typical. I would imagine that a lot of cops.
Yeah.
I imagine a lot of people in general would do that. I know I do that in my job.
Yeah.
People ask me questions and I just go, what did I write down when I inspected it? So I don't find that particularly questionable. Although I do know in court it is very basically you have to ask permission. Like cops are not allowed to reference their notes generally. Although attorneys will ask the judge if the cop can reference their notes.
Yeah.
Because I mean they write an awful lot of notes, and oftentimes trials are several months, if not years later. So remembering everything can be an issue.
Prior to our main topic tonight, there was several altercations and events that Antoinette and Roger found themselves in.
We're back!
Yeah, so we're going to move into the main topic.
Wait, we're not on the main topic?
Well, she is the main topic, but the one that gets her sent down for murder is what we're about to talk about now. This crime is just kind of weird how it plays out.
So this is where we go from page 3, mundane, everyday police encounters, to page 3, killers.
Yeah, murders that went unnoticed.
Except by us.
We have the main murder that happens that just takes this little romance between Frank and Roger and just makes it like Bonnie and Clyde. After midnight on March 4th, 1995, Frank and Roger visit Kim An, the Vietnamese restaurant run by the Vu family in New Orleans East Side. Frank had been working there off-duty as a security guard to supplement income.
Well, I mean, they ain't paying no one.
And she worked there with a fellow officer, Ronald A Williams II. As the employees were cleaning up that night, Chen Vu went into the kitchen to count money and entered the dining room of the restaurant to pay Ronald for working that night. And William was a colleague of Frank, and he got her the job there working part-time as a security guard at night to supplement their salaries because, like I said, they didn't make a lot working for the New Orleans Police Department. He joined the police department in 1992 and was a married father of 2. When Chen went to pay William, Chen noticed Frank approaching the restaurant. Frank and Roger had been into the restaurant twice earlier in the night to get leftover food to eat. When Chen had let her out on the last visit, she could not find the front door key. And when Frank returned for a third time, she sensed something was wrong. She's like, why is she back here again? Why is Antoinette and her boyfriend back here for a third time tonight? She's not working tonight. Why does she keep coming in?
Because she likes the food.
It might be a little bit more than that. Chen ran back to the kitchen and threw the bag of money into the microwave to hide it because she felt something was going to go down. Antoinette enters the front door using the key that she had stolen from the restaurant in her previous visit, walks past Williams, goes into the kitchen. She basically pushes the owner and the owner's brother, Quan, and back through the door, and she wants to know where the money's at. So Williams starts to follow in hopes of finding out what's going on when he hears shots ring out. Roger has slipped behind Williams and shot him in the neck, severing his spinal cord and instantly paralyzing him.
This has escalated quite quickly.
Yes. So let's just recap. So right now we have Antoinette. She is in the kitchen with the owner, the owner's brother, and then we have William, the part-time security guard, who's on for that night, standing outside of the door to the kitchen, and Rogers, Antoinette's boyfriend, has shot him in the neck, which paralyzes him. He hits the floor, and as he's falling, Rogers continues to shoot him in the head and back, which mortally wounds him. He does not survive. Antoinette turns back to the dining room of the restaurant. Chen grabs Wow to hide somewhere, and they end up going into the large walk-in cooler in the kitchen. They turn out the lights as they enter, and she comes back and she can't find them. They did not know the whereabouts of their other sister and brother, Ha and Quan Vu, who had been sweeping the dining room floors when Antoinette had entered the restaurant. From inside of the cooler, they could partially see into the kitchen and the front of the restaurant. Initially, they could not see Antoinette Frank looking for something in the kitchen. Initially, they couldn't see anything like that. As Antoinette moved out of their line of vision, additional gunshots were heard, and they observed Antoinette searching where they usually kept their money at the end of the night.
I think we found a motive.
Yes. So they were probably looking for money for drugs. In addition to, stealing and all that, Antoinette pistol whipped the 17-year-old Kuang when he hesitated to reveal the location of the money. But in truth, he didn't know where it was because his older sister
moved it,
put it in the microwave. Eventually, Antoinette does find the money in the microwave. They then end up shooting 21-year-old Ha 3 times as she knelt pleading for her life. They then shot Kuang 6 times. After that, Antoinette Frank, and Rogers left the premises. Chen tried frantically to call 911 on her cell, but the cooler prevented her from getting a usable signal.
Wait. Hold on. This is 1995. They have cell phones?
Yeah, like the really old ones. The first gen.
So these were some baller Vietnamese people.
The restaurant was very popular. I mean, they were open at midnight. I mean, most places I know close around 10. So she was not able to get a call out. They decide to leave the cooler, and they ran out the back door of the restaurant to a friend's home that was nearby, and they called 911 to report the murders. Both Antoinette and Rogers fled the restaurant and went to a nearby apartment complex, and they were seen by a bunch of people. They left a lot of witnesses.
I feel like this is like a botched plan. Like, Roger was never supposed to shoot anyone, and it just went really downhill from there.
It did, yes. So what do you think would be the reasonable thing for Antoinette to do at this point?
Get as far away from this situation as possible.
Oh, absolutely not. That's not what's going to happen. But when has she ever actually thought about anything?
She was Officer of the Month once.
Okay, so she does something completely stupid, idiotic. I believe this is the worst idea that you could possibly have. She hears on her radio the 911 call on her portable police radio.
She responds.
She responds.
Oh my god, I called it.
She jumps into her patrol car and returns to the scene. Posing as a responding officer, she intended to get there first and kill both Chen and Kwa in order to ensure that there would be no witnesses.
Okay, so I've had absolutely no time to think about this, and I've already seen the problem with it.
What?
She's not on the clock.
Yeah, exactly. She's on her personal time.
The fuck are you doing here? Well, I'm just covering up my own murder, so you guys can ignore it. First responder, get away from me.
Yeah. So Antoinette enters. She parks her vehicle at the back of the restaurant. Enters in through the back, makes her way through the kitchen and dining room to where Chen is waiting for help at the front of the restaurant. As Chen bolted through the restaurant's front door to the safety of arriving officers, Frank immediately identifies herself as a police officer. As she identifies herself as a police officer, Chen is shouting that she's guilty, that she's the one that murdered them, that she's not a first responder, that she's the one that's committed the crime.
Now, I know that, like, police officers are generally believed in court, but I imagine that in this particular case, it is, they're gonna look past that.
Yeah, definitely. The homicide detective, Eddie Rance, believed that Frank and, oh my god, what's his name? Roger planned the robbery to get revenge on Williams. Frank believed Williams was shortchanging her on her hours and pay at the restaurant, and she wanted revenge. Subsequently, he described Frank as the most cold-hearted person he had ever encountered in 3 decades as a police officer. Now, Chen and Frank were questioned in detail while seated at different tables in the restaurant. Frank was arrested and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. Rogers was arrested and charged later that night. Frank was taken to the police headquarters for additional questioning, where she later confessed to the crimes along with Roger. She is believed to be the first police officer to have been charged with a killing of a fellow police officer.
I would bet every dime I've ever made in my entire life that is not true. I mean, it's true that she was charged, but I would bet every ounce of silver I own that
she wasn't the first police officer in New Orleans to be charged with the killing of a fellow officer.
No. She was charged. I would bet she's not the first to done do it.
Yeah, well, no, she was the first to be charged. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, that's all I'm saying. I'm saying she's probably not the first to do it, though.
Okay. All right, we're going to move into the trial and conviction now.
So we just want to make an editor's note. We've been pronouncing the owner of the restaurant's name as Chen. It is supposed to be pronounced as Chow. We just wanted to point that out, just in case anyone was trying to fact check us. And now we're going to go back to what we were going to talk about anyway.
Yeah, so let's move into the trial and conviction of Antoinette and Roger. Now, they were both indicted by the New Orleans Parish Grand Jury on April 28th, 1995.
I think it's really funny that they call them parishes.
Yeah.
Everywhere else in the country, they call them counties.
Yeah.
But not New Orleans, because that's the way they do.
Yeah, like, I don't know if it had to do something, like, with, like, the religious, like,
oh, yeah, no,
roots
I believe
living there.
It 100% has to do with the Catholic Church.
Now, their trials were severed, and Roger was tried first on July 17th through the 21st of 1995 before Judge Frank Marlowe. Roger is found guilty, obviously, and sentenced to death, which I believe I read an article earlier today that says it was commuted to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
That was absolutely the most casual, and she was sentenced just to die.
Yep.
Like, no, that's it. Nothing more to say here.
Dirtbag gonna be a dirtbag? Then you get the murder. Get death penalty, you know?
That's the dirty South for you. No jokes.
But yeah, like how they do it in Texas. They're just like, oh, yeah, totally guilty. Yep, death penalty.
Next.
Let's try the next one. The main tip-off had been using Williams' Chevron credit card at a Chevron station in Gretna just minutes after the robbery and murders.
So they went and used the guy's credit card before circling back to the crime.
Exactly. And Antoinette's trial starts on September 5th of 1995 before the same judge.
Yeah, no, like this, if the first guy gets murdered, this lady should get, like, murder times 10.
Yeah.
She was a police officer.
Although Frank's attorney had subpoenaed 39 witnesses, they did not call a single one of them to testify. I don't know if that was just stupid or it was the fact that they were just going to lie because there was no...
If I had to guess, I would guess that they were attempting to create a situation where they could appeal.
Okay.
And if you subpoena 39 witnesses and none of them show up, then you could potentially have an appeal.
Well, I don't know if the witnesses never showed up. It's they never called any of those witnesses
but that's what I'm saying.
Give testimony.
So if they called 39 witnesses and none of them showed up, like they're claiming that they subpoenaed 39 of them. That doesn't necessarily... Sure, they officially subpoenaed 39 witnesses.
But they never actually questioned them on stand.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that was probably just a ploy to potentially. I'm not saying that this is what happened, I'm saying that potentially it was a ploy to bring up an appeal.
I feel like what they were trying to do was to have so much paperwork that the DA would just give them an offer instead of having to cross question 39 witnesses.
Yeah, but DA doesn't care about them subpoenaing 39 witnesses.
On September 12th...
You're laughing, though.
September 12th of 1995, the jury ended up only needing 22 minutes to return a guilty verdict.
Holy bejeebus.
All accounts.
22 minutes?
22 minutes.
Like, they didn't even take the advantage of... Like, they will give you lunch.
Yeah.
This jury's like, nah, we don't even want lunch. I just want to go home.
And then get this, the next day, they only needed 45 minutes to recommend the death penalty.
Yeah, that's the Dirty South again.
Yeah. So she ends up getting a death penalty. She was formally sentenced to death on October 20th of 1995 and sent to death row at the Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women.
You see, I told you, like, this. She should not have had her... I don't know. I don't get to see the next page, people. But I'm just saying that she should not have her sentence changed, unlike the her co-defendant.
No, definitely, because she held a position where she was definitely held to a higher standard, a standard that she did not fulfill in her duties. So, you know, she was supposed to be somebody that was protecting the innocent, you know, and here she ended up just shooting and killing 3 people.
This was like a petty theft, too.
Yeah, it was a petty theft. Like, how much money could they possibly had, like, one night of sales?
It was 95, so you're not talking a ton of credit cards yet.
Yeah, so it was all cash, but...
I mean, maybe a couple of grand.
Yeah, maybe.
If you're a restaurant in 1995 and you're pulling in $2,000 even on a Friday night, like, you're balling.
It was over chump change. Like, couple grand is not worth the life of 3 people. Like, that's just insane.
Well, it was 5 people. Think about it that way.
Yeah, she terrorized 2. They killed 3.
Well, I was just even talking about her and her defendant. If they both get sentenced to death.
Oh yeah,
that's 5 people.
Now, that's why I believe, you know, there's some people that deserve death penalty and other people that don't. And I think it has to be selective. But, you know, I feel like somebody like this who just trashed the system and ruined it for a lot of people. Can't trust a police officer when, you know, they're probably dirty.
Can't trust any cops. That's a lie. I'm sorry, police officers. Don't arrest me.
Yeah. So, the aftermaths of all of this, you know, you have Officer Williams, who is interred on March 7th, 1995. His name was inscribed on the memorial wall of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. Initially, the Vu family kept the restaurant open at the site of the tragedy in New Orleans East for a decade following, until they suffered some serious flood damage due to Hurricane Katrina in 2005. 1993, a year and a half before the murder at the Kimball restaurant, Frank's father had stayed at her home for a time before she reported him missing. In November of 1995, a month after she received her death penalty, so it was exactly 30 days after she received her first death sentence.
She done did her dad in.
A dog led the police to find a human skull with a bullet hole in it buried under her house.
So she was already like a bad person.
Yeah.
Like, this wasn't just like she got influenced.
In the book that I mentioned earlier by Chuck Huskmeyer, in his 2005 retrospect of this case, he said this in regards to the unearthing of those bones, that skull and all. As for those human bones unearthed beneath Frank's house, so far the authorities have made no serious effort to identify them. The 10-year-old case, they say, remains under investigation as of 2005.
Yeah, but no one really cares. I feel like it's a waste of resources.
Yeah, they know who it is, but they're not going to put the resources in to figure it out.
Like, who are they going to tell?
Yeah.
Antoinette?
Exactly. So, police and prosecutors believe that the skull is that of Adam Frank, Antoinette's father, and that they believe that she murdered him. However, since she is facing the death penalty in the Kimball murders, they have made no effort to try her for her father's death. And on October 18th, 2006, Frank's lawyers argued before the Supreme Court that her death sentence should be overturned because she was denied state-funded experts to help prepare for the sentencing phase of her trial. They argued that the defense needed to conduct an, air quotes, an investigation into the defendant's background for possible mitigating evidence.
I mean, that basically just says that, like, they think that she may have had a traumatic childhood or something like that, right?
Exactly, yes. So they believe that they should have been allowed to have a psychiatrist give testimony to the possible traumatic events from her childhood that could have affected her behavior at the time of the murders, and that she may have been suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. A psychiatrist retained by the state disagreed that Frank showed symptoms of trauma. He agreed that the diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder with antisocial tendencies given to Frank by a doctor at the Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women. So he agreed with that finding, that she suffered from a narcissistic personality disorder. That was correct, but he's like, no, she's not suffering from post-traumatic stress. So on May 22nd of 2007, the state of Louisiana's Supreme Court ruled 5 against 2 that the death penalty should be upheld. And on April 22nd, 2008, District Judge Frank Murillo signed the death warrant for Antoinette Frank. According to the warrant, Frank was scheduled to be executed by lethal injection on July 15th, 2008. In May, however, the Supreme Court issued a 90-day stay of execution effective June 10th, pending ongoing appeals. This is going to go back and forth. So the judge, it keeps going back to the judge. He signs a death warrant again, and she's rescheduled for death by lethal injection.
So you can just sum up the next, 15 lines of your notes with, "Yo, Judge, we think we should kill her." "Yeah, that's right. Wait, but there's this one other thing." Like, "Nah, dog, just kill her." "Nah, but there's this, like, one other thing." "Nah, dog, just kill her."
Exactly. So that's how it goes back and forth for a while.
And then on July 23rd of 2015, retired Judge Michael Kirby threw out Rogers' conviction and sentenced and ordered a new trial. What? Yep. This just overturns our entire thing.
Yep.
Our last 20 minutes of conversation is out the window.
And he ends up getting just life in prison. So they overturn the conviction.
Yeah, but we already knew that one.
Yeah. All of this is going on. They say that there's an overwhelming amount of evidence that he's guilty, that she's guilty. So they're just like, why are we arguing this? And then an appellate court later overturns the new ruling for a new trial for Roger. And he was just resentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
So all I'm saying is if we just sentenced both these people to life at the very beginning of this, I could have saved an awful lot of tax dollars.
Exactly. Now, both of them I believe both of them got commuted to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And our friend Roger is sent to hard time in Angola.
Angola? Why do I know Angola? Like the country Angola?
No, it's the Louisiana State Penitentiary. They call it Angola. Because it is such a hard prison. It's such a hard prison to survive. It's not a good prison to be in.
There's got to be like some type of like Discovery Channel thing on Angola.
Oh, there probably is. I mean, it's one of, like, I believe they said it's one of the harshest prisons in Louisiana. So not a good time for him. Just gonna say, Roger, do not drop the soap that 3 people had to die for.
Hey, what was the name of the book that this guy wrote? This everything the 20 years preceding these murders seems incredibly interesting.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes, it is. It is so interesting. So the name of the book by Chuck Husmeyer, I believe it is called Killer with a Badge.
I might need to read this.
Is the name of the book.
What do we say?
As always, guys, stay sexy and don't get murdered.